Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well. You amazing, amazing people. You're looking amazing, by the way. You've obviously had a better weekend than me. We're going live tonight, so I'll let you all in on how much of an absolute balls up this weekend has been. Obviously, some of you know we was planning to go away. We had it all booked. We had it all planned, but it all went to shit. Anyway, talking about going to shit. The Idaho 4 case and Moscow, Idaho's control over the Idaho 4 case could eventually also go to shit. Because I think a lot of people forget how we got to where we are today. And, you know, some people are so hell-bent on proving or wanting Brian Kohberger to be guilty that they're kind of sticking their heads in the sand and purposefully ignoring some of the very, very important pivotal factors in the Idaho 4 case and getting Brian Kohberger to where he is. Now, look, what we'll say is this. There is a fly in the ointment. And that fly in the ointment comes with the face of Bethany Funk. Now, there is a video done by Andrew D. Myers, the law officers of Andrew D. Myers, and the link to that video will actually be in the description of this video. And I would say go and watch it. It talks about the document drops, which I did yesterday. I did the doc drop yesterday because this video is actually going to be on Monday, not Sunday. Yeah, that's correct. I forget. I do videos like a day in advance sometimes, so you'll actually see this the day after the live. So I do apologise. So you'll actually know if you joined me on the live last night as to why the weekend went to shit. Anyway, by the by, it's really early and I'm really tired. So look, yes, Bethany Funk. Andrew D. Myers talks about Bethany D. Funk, and I just want a Bethany D. Funk, debunk. I'm going to go through something quickly, but again, I want you to go and watch the video by Andrew D. Myers. But this is what I think we should all just remember. Okay, now, Bethany Funk was interviewed multiple times by law enforcement. And I think that's very important when you consider that what pieces of the PCA we have seen do not include her. She's not included in there at all. Which when you pair that with the fact that it was deemed that she had information, details that were deemed exculpatory or potentially exculpatory to Brian Kohberger, it's very, very interesting that nothing whatsoever was included from her to help support their movement forward in the arrest and charges against Brian Kohberger. Because you would think the two most important people in terms of providing absolute statements that would have him bang to rights. You know, obviously Bethany Funk was instrumental in where we find ourselves today. You know, the bushy eyebrowed guy. The entire timeline of events solely is held by what she said. We only have this timeline, and you know the entire everything, every single thing, and that this bewilders me. It bewilders me that so many people have an issue when we raise about Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk and the issues and the concerns that we have surrounding them, especially around the delays between what happened that night and the calling of help and assistance. You know, there was this delay. This delay will never make any sense. It will never be okay. Well, I say never be okay. Maybe it could be okay, but there's going to have to be a discussion had and a conclusion made based on that information to decide whether we can rightfully let that go, walk away from it confident that that made sense, because at the moment it doesn't make sense. And this also doesn't make sense. Bethany Funk was interviewed by police on several occasions. She disclosed things she heard and things she saw. It became known to me that Bethany Funk has information material to the charges against Mr. Koberger. Portions of information Ms. Funk has is exculpatory to the defendant. Ms. Funk's information is unique to her experiences and cannot be provided by another witness. And that is Richard Bethany, criminal investigator, who was working on behalf of Ann Taylor. Now, obviously, when they talk about witnesses, they're talking about Bethany Funk versus Dylan Mortensen, because Bethany Funk is, as far as we know, the only other real and true witness. We've heard that there are potentially other witnesses, but let's not get confused between the terminology used in cases. You know, if someone is brought forward as a witness, it doesn't mean that they are necessarily a witness to the crime. They call people who specialize in elements of the case as a witness. So if we're talking about someone being brought in to offer a professional insight into, say, the IGG information, they would be deemed as a witness for the defense, a professional witness. So yeah, there's some terminology that can get confusing. I've seen people in the comments who are like, oh, there's going to be 400 witnesses. How the hell was there 400 witnesses? And that's what we're talking about when we mention witnesses in some aspects of the criminal process. It's not so much witnessing the crime, it's witnessing in terms of helping the layman, i.e. the jury, understand complexities that come up in these cases. But with respect of true witnesses, we're looking at Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, and it would seem that Bethany had concluded that the experiences that were, experienced by Bethany Funk seemingly differed in such a way over Dylan Mortensen that there is, I would imagine, and I'm spitballing here, I would imagine that with Bethany knowing what information Dylan Mortensen had released and stated, that there was perhaps some sort of disjointed situation between them. Someone heard and saw something, while someone heard and saw something else. And perhaps there was an issue with times. Maybe Bethany Funk saw something an hour earlier than what Dylan Mortensen did, for instance. Or maybe she heard or had tried to get... Do you know what I mean? There's for there to be exculpatory evidence or the pushing of that, which I don't see why they would say that if there wasn't. Unless we're going down the route like many, many guilters say, and that is that when Ann Taylor states, for instance, that there is no connection between her client and the victims, they just say that she's flat out lying. And maybe Bethany is flat out lying when he speaks of exculpatory evidence. But we know that very swiftly the state moved to block access to Bethany Funk. We leapfrogged over the pre-planned preliminary hearing that would have been the fairest way to have gone in this situation and opted for a behind closed doors secret grand jury. And it did seem, and albeit it could have been completely coincidental, maybe it was, but it seemed like a knee-jerk reaction, and it got the result that the state wanted. They wanted to block the defense's access to potential exculpatory evidence, and they did it. They absolutely did it. And that's not right. It's not fair. And that's all we want is fair. But eventually, this information is going to have to come out. If we go through this entire trial and it looks completely like the Moscow, Idaho is controlling everything and being controlling of everything, then how are people going to get to the end and get the conclusion and be happy with the outcome if things like Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk's entire situation isn't pulled and plied over and serious questions asked and answered, such as the 8-hour time delay, such as what is this exculpatory evidence then? What experiences did Bethany Funk have, and did they line up or indeed fracture with respect to how they lined up with Dylan Mortensen? But I do class Bethany Funk as a fly or a potential fly in the ointment, and it's something that cannot be ignored. Now, would you be willing to go all the way throughout this process and come to a conclusion without both Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk being pulled up and have to answer questions? Let me know down below. Would you be happy if they were just left alone and they became no part of this in its entirety? They never got heard of again. It wasn't important. Or do you feel they should both be brought in? And if so, what questions would you have them both answer? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.